Okay, we're going to be designing for this project a poster, and the poster is going to be based on the public theatre New York posters of Paula Scher. Um, Hopefully, you've done a little bit of research on her, and also we're going to look at the work of Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, and we're going to look at in particular, look at his photograms. So first of all, let's look at the Paula Scher Public Theatre New York posters. So um, these are two of her famous posters designed in the 90s for the Public Theatre in New York. And you can see that she uses an image, photographic image, as the kind of centerpiece of the posters. But then the rest of the poster is very typography driven, very text heavy. And obviously there's lots of information about the shows, about information about the theatre, dates, times, etc. And it's this creates this really kind of funky, really lively, really vibrant posters using text in various ways. She's used very large, very bold text. She's spun the text round 90 degrees. She's got it coming down the side here, the word the public theatre here. We've got text that is set diagonally. At the top here, we've got text which is horizontal. We've got text which is vertical. She's really used the typography to make a really dynamic poster. That's the yellow one, bringing the noise, bringing the funk. And this is for the same kind of poster campaign, bringing the noise, bringing the funk. On the right hand side here, she's obviously used a different color scheme than the one on the left. The one on the left is kind of yellow and black. She's got the black and white image here as well. On the right hand side, the background is white and she's used black, blue and red text. The one on the right, you can see that the text is really is kind of aligned around the image. Sometimes the text on the left hand side goes over, on the foot here goes over the top of the image, sometimes behind. On this one it kind of is aligned around the image. So we're going to use these two posters as kind of an influence on the poster that we're going to design. She also uses lines to kind of break up information. So obviously there's information about King Lear here. That's broken up by a line here and a line here. So it kind of surrounds that information and separates it from the other information. So there's a few of the kind of the rules that Paula Scher has followed and created in these two posters we're going to use in our poster. The second kind of influence we're going to use is Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, who was a teacher at the Bauhaus, a very famous design school, 1920s, 1930s. And he played around with these what are called photograms, and he's used his hand quite a lot in these images, amongst other things. You can obviously see there's some kind of grid kind of pattern he's created with something that he's kind of put onto the photographic paper which he's used. And on this one he's actually just used his hand, and he's got his hand there and inverted it, another hand inside that one. Very black and white, very stark images, very bold images. So these are the two designers, artists that we're going to use to influence our poster. So we're not going to create a poster that's just Paula Scher. We're not going to create a poster that's just Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. We're going to create a kind of combination of the two. And we're going to use the hand images that you created earlier. So let's just move on to my second slide. the slide that you're going to use is going to be A3 portrait. So you need to create a new slide, and it's going to be A3 portrait. So you need to set that up first. Before I go any further and kind of discuss and show you and demonstrate how I created this poster. So this is my finished poster, and you can really see the influence of both of those designers, both those artists in the poster. You can see my kind of Nagy photogram in the background there, which I've created using my images in my hand that I took on my phone, and I've also incorporated a pattern, one of the pattern images that I created. And then I have got the public theatre logo here in the bottom right hand corner, and then I've created this this text, this typography based on the Paula Scher posters which we've just looked at. So I've used the lines, I've used the text, bold text, different different kind of alignments of text. I've got it diagonal, I've got it quite sharply diagonal with the line of the fingers. I've got it diagonal down here to the left, aligned right. I've got it aligned left here, just horizontal. I've got it kind of rotated around 90 degrees here. I've used bold text, I've used standard text, and I've also used now and again used some shapes. Now, for the image that you're going to use, I'll show you how to create that in a minute, but you don't have to use a black and white image, although Nagy used mostly, well, he did use black and white images a lot, particularly white, you know, that white, a grey and a black kind of colour scheme, monochrome. So you can stick to that if you like, but I've tried, you can see on the left hand side, I've tried one here with a coloured image. I would say that the images of the hands that you choose need to be pretty, you know, you need to have taken the editing to the limits and really kind of created a really standout, really stark, really bold image. So it can't just be kind of an image of a hand with all the texture of the hand there. Although if we scroll to the right here, you can see on this image I have used a kind of photograph where you can see the details of my hand. It's less of a silhouette, it's less of a really stark image like the red hand on the left hand side here, and that seems to work, and it creates a slightly different feel, but it's using a similar principle, so that's fine. So really just have a play around with your images and get something that you like, and get something that kind of fits the style of Nagy. So we're going to have a go at creating, well, I'm going to show you how I created this poster here on the next slide. So what I would like to do is document the stages. So every stage that you take, every step that you take, not necessarily every step, but every stage of the process, I would copy and paste the slide, so that you build up. You can see the development of your idea, and obviously for your sketchbook that would be really good. Okay, so we're going to start with the images. We're going to get those in first, and then we're going to add the text later. So to bring in the image, what we're going to do is we're going to create, first of all, a rectangle. So we're going to go to shapes and rectangle. We're going to draw a rectangle, and we're going to double click on it, and we're going to change the size to the size of an A4 page, because our poster is going to be A4. So the height of, or the length of a piece of A4 paper is 29.7 centimeters, and the width is 21. Hit enter, and that's the size of the image that we're going to use. So I'm just going to pull that to the side for a minute. Then I'm going to double click on the image. Sorry, I'm not going to right click on the image, sorry, and go to format shape. And what should appear on the right hand side here is a menu which we're going to use. And what we're going to do is we're going to insert a picture into that rectangle, into our shape. So we're going to go to picture or picture or texture fill. You see I've already got an image that comes in there, you won't. So I'm going to go to File. Now, so before you go to File, what you need to do is you need to go get your images. You need to collect your images. See, I've got my images in my OneDrive folder. You need to select the images that you want. So if I wanted all these images, just click and drag around them, and you need to download them onto your computer, because we need to be able to go to the place where they are on file and bring them into PowerPoint. So when you download them, they should download into your downloads folder. But what I've done is created a folder on my desktop, on my computer, on my hard drive. I've called it Public Theatre Images, and I've copy and pasted all of the images that I might use for this poster into that folder. So basically you create a folder on your desktop called Public Theatre Images, you download your images from OneDrive, and you copy them into that folder, and then they are on your computer to use. You might already have them on your computer if you've uploaded them from your phone and then you've uploaded them to OneDrive. Okay, so once you've got them in a folder on your computer, we can go back to PowerPoint, and you can go to File, and then we go looking for our images. So we're going to go to, I'm going to find my folder, which is 10 graphics and Public Theatre Images. There we go. And here are all my images. Now if I want to see the images, I'm just going to go to View here and Large Icons, so I can actually see the images. You could right click in the folder and go to View, Large Icons, and then you can actually see them rather than just being a list. So the first image I'm going to bring is my hand. I'll just label the hand dark. I'm going to insert that. At the moment, I've already changed the transparency on here. We'll look at that in a minute, but when you bring the image in, it should be the photograph that you've taken. So that's my kind of base image. What I've done then is I've copied it and pasted it, and then I want this kind of shadowy kind of effect as though the image has moved slightly. So with my copied image, I'm going to go to transparency on here. So again, if you haven't got that there, you go to right click, format picture. This menu will appear. You click on fill and line, and then transparency down here, and we can move that slider up and down. We can change, as you can see, change the transparency of that image. Now you can do whatever you like with this. I've just offsetted it, which means I've moved it slightly to the left, and what I'm going to do is just stretch it slightly, so it overlaps the image. I'm just going to play around with it until it fits, until I get the effect that I want, and I'm just going to pull it off the side slightly. You can see there. You can play around with that. You can stretch it more, you can stretch it less. I'm just going to stretch it a little bit just so it looks like the image has moved slightly. Now the problem I've got is that image has got bigger, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to go to crop. I'll right click on it actually. Double click, go to format and crop, and then I'm going to crop that down so it fits inside my other image. You can see that I'm just moving that up so it fits there. There we go, and there you have it. And the only thing I've got left to do is the picture actually has a blue line, a blue border. If we go to shape outline, no outline, if I move that slightly away, go back to there, double click on the image, shape outline, no outline, put that image back on top, and you can see now that I've got two layers, one on top of the other, and I've got that kind of shadowy kind of image as though the hand has moved and I was taking the photograph. And that's the effect that I've got here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste it again. So I've now got three layers. Move it to the right slightly. Go back to fill and line. Again, if this menu isn't here, right click, format picture. I'm going to go to insert pictures from file again, and I'm going to choose one of my pattern images. Okay, so I've got a few to choose from. Now when you choose the pattern image, you want to choose you don't have to, but maybe choose a pattern that repeats itself. I've got these kind of dots on a music stand I had. The tile one would be good. Maybe not the photo frame, these may be too bold, but you can experiment and try. But I'm going to go for that, and you can see that it replaces that image, and I'm going to put it over the top of my hand. Now when I do that, I lose quite a lot of the hand, so I'm going to change the transparency and pull the transparency right up so that you can see when I pull it right up it disappears completely. I'm going to just do it about 79%. Again, you play around with that until you've got something you like. You could pull the layer away, and if you click on the layer below, right click on it, bring to front. I could bring the hand in front of the pattern, and when I put the pattern back, you can see that because the hand is on top of it, it fades out a bit more. And then I could go back to my fill and again play around with the transparency till I get something that I think is right. You don't want the pattern to take over the image too much. It's the hand, it's the image of the hand that we're interested in really. So that's the first stage. You can see that I've got my 3 photographs here. I've just dumped those at the side so I can see the 3 composite images. So you might want to do that as well. And then if I just delete that, then I've got my, I mean, you could just put them at the side here, like that. It might be a little bit easier to move around. Obviously you won't have this finished image there. I'm just using that as a guide to when I put the text on, so we can see, and you can see what the finished piece looks like. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste that slide. I'm going to go back, I'm going to delete that. And then the next stage, that's the first stage, is to bring your image of 3, I would only stick to 3 composite images. If I go back a slide, you can see that on my other image, on this one, the 3 images are that kind of tile image I had. And what I did with this image is I just copied and pasted the image. I played around with the transparency and I rotated it. Around 90 degrees, and then I just put it back on top. So that's another way of manipulating the images over the top of each other. And then I put my pattern on top. Again, the pattern doesn't overwhelm the images of the hands. Just adds another layer, another texture. And you can see on this one I did the same thing. I rotated the image around, and then I tried with another image, kind of like a fruit bowl image that I had. Okay, so that's the first stage, is to bring in 3 images, lay them on top of each other, play around with the transparency, and get an A4 image that you're ready to work with.